Welcome to Inner Dry Season, notes for Module A distinctively visual. The scenes created by Lawson allow the reader to appreciate a place they have never seen. He draws on personal experience, opinion, and stereotypes to depict a bush lifestyle. Inner Dry Season is a travelogue, following the narrator's journey from Bathurst to Bourke along the Western Line. Many critics claim it is based on Lawson's only ever journey out back. The purpose is to give insight into the lives of people living in regional and remote Australia. The focus is the effect of drought on the landscape and the people. Take a moment to familiarise yourself with these techniques. Some of these terms may be new for you. Authorial intrusion occurs when the narrator leaves the story to speak directly to the reader. It is sometimes assumed to be the author's voice. A euphemism refers to using a mild expression rather than the harsh truth. Instructional verbs are words that tell you what to do. Modality refers to the level of certainty expressed. And a motif is a recurring symbol or idea. The story is told from the perspective of a first-person homodiegetic narrator. That means the narrator is also a character in the story, in this case, the main character. But the story is not about the narrator. This is important because it means we, the audience, are seeing the visuals created from only one perspective. The narrator acts as a tour guide and an observer, but he does interact with other characters and often breaks the story with an authorial intrusion. Lawson is explicitly creating an image of the bush as isolated and monotonous. He opens Inner Dry Season with the instructional verb draw, which immediately calls the reader to create an image of the landscape described. This is part of the motif of the artist. The focus on creating art allows Lawson to focus on detailed visual descriptions, often using positional verbs to render the placement of the image. It is a harsh, inhospitable environment where nothing comes easy. The characters here are all sketches, stereotypes or generalizations. They represent groups of people. They are described through the clothes that they wear, their occupation, and their posture. Lawson has used the indefinite article a to show that many of the characters are not individuals, but represent a class or group. It is significant that many of these characters are working men, yet none of them are actually working during the story. The first men described, the masters of the patient, ungroomed hacks, are inside having a drink, several drinks. The sundowner is sitting, reading the bulletin, perhaps an intertextual reference, while the fettlers, railway workers and union men, are standing round filling their pipes. The shearers sat on trucks watching the train. All of these working men are exhibiting an attitude of defiance, which is a definite value of Australian culture expressed through Lawson's work. The only character engaged in any productive activity is the lone woman throwing out the washing up water. The way characters are represented contributes a lot to Lawson's theme of an egalitarian society. Lawson has used his representation of characters to show the audience that there are no true class distinctions. This occurs particularly through the sundowner, and the sundowners were the lowest class of bush society. They arrive at the end of a working day, carrying their swag, hoping for a feed before they move on. This sundowner is reading the bulletin, the same magazine that Inner Dry Season was published in. So already Lawson has created a connection between the reader, reading the bulletin, and this sundowner. This is an example of an interconnection between texts, or perhaps a self-referential image, and it creates connections. What's important is that it's the representation of these images, these sketches of characters, that demonstrate all of these men as equals, not their actions or their deeds. Mateship is a significant Australian value that Lawson has represented. Recall the friendship at the centre of The Bush Undertaker. What we see is mateship between men in very isolated situations. It is important that the narrator of In a Dry Season is an outsider. He does not have mates, but he is observing groups of people. Generalizations of groups cause the reader to see these characters as part of a cohesive unit. They all work together. The groups are connected through their sameness. Thank you for listening.